Hello everyone and welcome to the hands-on demo on AWS Identity and Access Management, AWS IAM. So in this particular demo, we will be creating a few users and we will be creating a few groups and we will be assigning users to groups and we will see attaching the policies to the groups and we will see how to create an access control mechanism through this users, groups, roles and policies. And we will also be creating a role to attach to an EC2 instance. So let's create the first user, and for this log into AWS console. So I am at console home and I have logged in as a root user and I am in US East North Virginia region. Then search for IAM and click IAM. So you land on IAM dashboard. Then click on users. So I already have one user. So this is an IAM user, but I have logged in as a root user. So I'll just showcase also later when I log in with a user which I create, what is the difference. So I click on create user, give a username. So I'll copy it from the demo. Then select provide user access to AWS management console, and this first option is if you are using AWS single sign-on. This is AWS Identity Center, but I can say I want direct user. Then you can auto generate password or custom password. I'll just say custom password, and you can say user must create a new password at next sign in. So for this I will just choose this option. For another user I will disable this and I will use this particular password. Then click on next. So in the second page you can attach the user to a group, but we will be creating group later, so I will not attach any groups. This is just a plain user. This is optional. You can set permissions boundary. Click on next. Because I have assigned that user must change password, so it has to assign this IAM user change password permission, so that user have the permission to change his own password. Then click on create user. So this is the first user. So I'll just keep this here only and create another user. So for that I will open this in a new tab so that this information is there. Also at this point, if you click on email sign-in instruction, it will open your email client and send the information to the user. So you can just type in the end user name and send the email. So this is the first user that we have created. Next is second user. I will take the username. This is operations user. So this is actually operations 1. So I'll fix that in slide. There should not be any space. So click on users and we are creating the second user now. Provide user access to AWS management console. This is how user will have access to this console, same console. Then I want to create an IAM user. Then custom password. And I will uncheck this time, user must create a new password at next sign in. And click on next. I'll close this tab because I can always retrieve the information. So I'll just close this. So I'll just say leave page. So this is saying that this information will be visible only once. So make sure you have you have noted down the password. So I'll say anyway leave page. Okay, next set permissions, but we are not, we will assign permissions through groups later. So this is second user, operations 1, and click on create user. So in this case, because the permission policy is not assigned, because I have not set that user must change password at next sign in. Okay, so this information comes. Anyway, this is fine. Next is to create So we have seen this. Next is we'll create two groups. One is developers and one is operations with different permission policies. So create user group. So I can say okay, this is fine. I can just go to IAM now and I can say continue. Then click on user groups, create group. So in the first screen itself, just select the developer one user. So we are creating the group and assigning user to the group at the same screen. And we will attach our custom policy later, permissions policy. Click on create user group. Same way we will create one more group. This one I call as operations. Attach the operations one user. Leave permission policies as blank. Create user group. So now we have two user groups. Now in one of the permissions policies operations, I will be using one bucket. So I'll create one bucket, S3 bucket. So I just go to S3. Open this in a new tab and click on create bucket. So this is general purpose bucket and I am just creating in the default US East 1 region. So make sure you add some numbers or something because it has to be universally unique. No other change, just click on create bucket. Okay, next we will create one first policy for the developers group, and this policy is saying that in S3 you can list all my buckets and get the bucket location, but for the developer I am assigning this bucket. So this one is like a read and this one is saying you can within this particular bucket you can put and delete, but inside this bucket. But otherwise all other S3 bucket you can list and read. So I will go to policies. So click on policies, click create policy. Copy the whole JSON and click on JSON tab. Just delete the whole thing and paste. Click on next and provide a name, policy name. So I am calling this policy developer S3 access. Rest all settings are fine and just create policy. Next we will create one more policy. So this is first. Okay, before we create policy we have to attach this policy to the developers group. So this policy has been created. So I'll close this and go to the user groups. Click on developers and click on permissions. Add permissions. Attach policies. If I just search with developer, so this is, you can see AWS managed and customer managed. So whichever you create, the type will be customer managed. So select that, attach policies. So this is added. So next is we'll create the second policy for the operations. So this policy is saying users who belong to operations group through this policy will have allow actions on all resources which are of this type: EC2, CloudWatch, and S3. So operations team has these three services, all actions available. So I go to policies again. So this is second policy. Create policy. JSON, copy the whole JSON, paste it. Next. So this will automatically, it will show which all services are part of this policy, but here I just have to provide a name. So I call it operations access. Click on create policy. So policy is created. Now we have to just add this policy to the group. So go to the user groups, operations group, permissions, add permissions, attach policies, operations. So select operations access, customer managed, attach policies. So policy is attached. So this is just for your information. So if you have a brand new account, fresh AWS account, which you have not ever worked on, so this is you will only see 2 roles. So this is just for your information. So on a brand new fresh vanilla account, there will be 2 initial start roles, and after that there will be a lot of service roles as you start working with services. So if I click on roles, so I can see there are 2 initial roles and others. This is I enabled organization, so I see this particular, and this is some Kafka related role. So again it is called a service linked role. So every time you work with a service, it will create a service role so that that service can work with other services and that service itself. So herein now I will create a role. So what we have done with user management group and policies, that part is done, but now this is slightly different, that we are creating a role for EC2 instance, and I will talk about what is the difference between the role and a group. So we will create a role. So click create role, and herein you will see you have to first select the trusted entity. So you can select default AWS service. So you have to choose which AWS service this role will be assumed. So the keyword is assume. So the entity assumes this role. So it's a temporary thing. User can also assume, but we will use the groups, not the role. So this is, for example, this is first option. So this role will be assumed by this AWS service or AWS account, whether this is same account or another AWS account, or web identity, which is for federation and all. So you can have login with Amazon, Cognito, Facebook, Google. So allows users federated by specified external web identity provider to assume this role to perform actions in this account. If I show SAML 2.federation, so herein you have SAML 2.0 based provider. And lastly, custom trust policy. So herein again you will do the same thing. So let's say assume role, like assume role with SAML. So this is custom. So you create whole policy like this, but you say custom. And if I show you, like, let's say how it will be, so another user want to get this role, so you have to say add principal. So assume role, add principal, and select principal type. So I can say I am users, and I can provide a username here. So let's say I have a user here with this name, and account I have to replace the AWS account ID, but this will be temporary. So user will assume this role, perform some action, and then that role there it has an expiry. So after that expiry, this will go away. So I'll just cancel it because that's not our use case, but I just wanted to showcase all the different combinations. So I'll take AWS service and EC2 and choose. So this role will be assumed by EC2. So in case EC2 wants to perform some action, the service itself, that EC2 will assume this particular role. So I click on next, and I will provide. So in this case, this use case is in case your EC2 is accessing any S3 bucket. So you can provide this managed policy, Amazon S3 read-only access. So select that. So every time you check it, it automatically get assigned. So click on next and give a role name. So I call it this role EC2 S3 read only, and you can see whole policy and click on create role. So role is created. Okay, next I just talk about user group and role. So you just pay attention. This is called as user group. So this means it has to do with something with users, and role is generic. So when we have users and we want to do user management, we create group, and then group has policies. So that's how we control user access. So these are the differences. Collection of IAM users for managing permissions. So it always so group is always related to users. Okay, role, set of permissions assumed by an entity temporarily. Association, users are added to groups. Roles are assumed by entities. Multiple associations, a user can be in multiple groups. An entity, which we have seen, there are 4 types, right? An entity can assume only one role at a time. So it can take one role, do some action, let go that role and take another role. Duration of permissions, permanent until changed, because they are part of a group. Temporarily, only while role is assumed. Typical use cases, managing permissions for human users within AWS account. So human users, granting permissions to AWS services, applications or external users. Credentials, no own credentials, users use their own. This one has temporary security credentials generated when assumed. So it is under the hood, there are security credentials which are generated and used, and they get revoked after some time automatically. Cross account access, cannot be used for cross account access. So user groups cannot be used, it means to say. Can be used to grant access across AWS accounts. So multi AWS account setup. AWS service integration, cannot be directly used by AWS services. These groups can be associated with AWS services, for example EC2 Lambda, which we have just seen. Authentication, users authenticate with own credentials. Entity authenticates by assuming the role. So every time they assume a role, AWS will generate secure token like temporary security credentials or tokens, which will get expire after some time automatically. Okay, next we'll test. So first is to log in as a developer. So developer has less access. So I'll go to users and click on first developer, and if I come to security credentials, so you will see the console sign in link. So copy this, and this user will be forced to create a password on first login, because that was the setting. So I open a new private window, and so this is the part which I wanted to talk about. So this is IAM user. So this, you can always sign in using root user. So whatever I am doing in the actual demo was using the root user. So root user has all the privileges. So when you say root user, it shows like this, root user email address, but we are using IAM user. So this is IAM user. So I'll close this once again so that we get directly to the window. So I'll just open a new tab and paste it, so that account alias automatically gets populated. Then I type in the IAM username and password, sign in. So it is asking for it is forcing for first time login. So confirm password change. So this is first time login. So I'll just next done. So you see it has no access, that's why it says access denied for everything. But I will just open EC2 and S3. So as you can see, it has no access. So that's why you are seeing API error everywhere. Even if I click on instances, it will not be all the instances. You are not authorized to perform this operation. But if I go to S3 buckets tab, because I gave all the read access, and this bucket also, it has the access, and if I go inside, so it can actually create folder or upload object because it has put permission also. So anyway, this is the developer one which we have tested. Next I'll close this and go to the other users and click on operations one. You can click security credentials and you will see the sign in link. Copy this and open a new private window and type in the second user's username. And for this user, it will not be asked to change password because I have disabled that. So first time login screen, click next, done, and open EC2 and S3. So you will see some of them have not have permissions, but instances and other things have permissions. So if I click on instances, we did not get the, so this user can actually launch instances and work with instances EC2 because he is part of operations group. And if I click on S3 bucket, same, because he has full access. This is same as developer only. So I'll close this window also. So we have verified developer 1 S3 view and EC2 view, and verified as operations S3 view and EC2 view. Now we'll just do the cleanup. So first is to delete the policies. So click on policies. I'll just search for developer. So click developer S3 access. Copy paste the name. Click the second operations access and click delete. Okay, so policies are getting deleted. Next is to delete the role. So we have EC2 S3 read only. So go to roles and this role is here. So copy paste the role. Next is to delete the users. So go to the users and I will click these two users and click delete. Type in delete. Next is to finally delete the user groups. So users got deleted, and go to user groups and select developers and operations and click delete. Okay, so user groups also deleted. And that's all. Thanks for watching.